Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. And today we are going to take a look back 5 years ago in the UFC. This is going to be a very, very long video. Just letting you know, again, we're going to go through each event. We're going to talk about them. We're going to go through January, February, March, April, May, June, all throughout the years. 5 years. And at the end, I'm going to ask you guys, what were some of your favorite events? What were some of your favorite fights? Is there a fight on here that made you a UFC fan or a fight fan in general? Again, to me, this seems like yesterday. I was thinking going back 5 years and be like, man, that's like 2011. And I realized that's a long time ago. But again, we're going to talk about them. We're going to have fun. It's going to be cool to go back and look at all these events. It really, really is. So again, watch the video, subscribe if you are new, like the video, comment down below. Again, I'm asking you guys some questions about it for sure. Without further ado, again, it's going to be a long one. Let's get right into it. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to go through some of the cards, see where some of the fighters are now, see where, you know, there's some debuting fighters, the Ultimate Fighters. I mean, there's a lot of people, a lot of fighters obviously going to be on these cards. There's a lot of them. Yeah, either way. January 14th, 2018, Scott Trade Center, St. Louis, Missouri. And it was almost 10,100 attendance. A lot of people. A lot of people right there. So Jeremy Stephens and Doho Choi. Doho Choi. Pretty sure that's how they pronounce it. But again, Mads Burrell, who is in the Bellator, defeated Mike Santiago. JJ Aldrich. Jessica Eye is now retired. JJ Aldrich is still around. Goody Kennetti just got released. Urain Aldana. Look at this. Was this her first fight? She just fought last night and was awful. She's been finished. Tonya Evinger finished her. Whoa. Okay. But was this her first fight? No. She debuted in 2016. Okay. Marco Paulo Reyes defeated Matt Frevola. I remember that. That was pretty crazy. I thought they changed it to no contest for Paulo Reyes for testing positive. And they didn't. I thought he tested positive for something. Okay, I guess not. Yeah, I thought they took that performance away. Maybe they took it, they put it back. Something else came out, whatever. Either way, James Cross defeated Alex White. Obviously, we all know about James Cross at this point. Darren Elkins defeated Michael Johnson. Michael Johnson went down a weight class. Actually looked really, really good early in that fight. And then Michael Johnson fashion loses in the next round. Kamaru Usman fought Emil Meek. Wow, remember the Viking? They made him shave off his fucking beard. What he was known for. They made him shave it. And, yeah, that was the whole Kamaru Usman. This is 20% or 30% or whatever bullshit he said after that. Yikes. Jessica Rose Clark defeated Paige Van Zant. But Jessica Rose Clark, she just got released. Wow, that's a co-main event. What the hell? And there's only 1, 2, 3, 4 finishes out of this on this card. And then Jeremy Stephens defeated Doho Choi. So, wow. That's one hell of a way to start out that year. I don't know how happy I would have been about that. 6 days later, UFC 220, Miocic versus Ngannou the first time, and the Cormier versus Volkan. No time. And, yeah, I mean, you have Islam Makhachev fighting Gleison Tibau, and Gleison Tibau had tested positive for a supplement beforehand. This was his return, and he was flatlined very quickly, less than a minute. And then Enrique Barzola, I'm pretty sure that's how you say that name, defeated Matt Bessette. Bessette? I think it's Bessette. This fight was a lot closer than what judges and people had set it out to be. It was a pretty close fight. 30-27, thinking about it, seems weird. But, yeah, Matt Bessette didn't fight after this in the UFC. I'm pretty sure this was his only he fought Steven Peterson, lost a split decision. So there it is, after he was knocked out by Kurt Holabo. So, yeah, there's that. And then Julio Arce still there, defeated Dan Ige. Wow, there we go. Dustin Ortiz defeated Alexander Pantoja. Zaba Hamasi was sent to the Underrealm by Abdul Razak Al Hassan. That was crazy. And then Kyle Bochniak fought Brandon Davis. Kind of ran in that fight. That's a fight that really didn't live up to hype. That it could have been really, really good. Rob Font defeated Thomas Almeida. And Thomas Almeida one is crazy. I mean, his record as of right now is 22-5. But if you don't remember, let me remind you. He came in the UFC at 18-0 and defeated Tim Gorman, which I don't even know who the hell that is. Fight of the night. Then fights Yves Jabin, and then defeats Brad Pickett, knocks him out for the first time in Brad Pickett's career, at least in the UFC up until that point. And then beats Anthony Burchak. I believe Marlon Vera KO'd Brad Pickett later on, but at this point was the first time he had been KO'd. And then he KOs Anthony Burchak, who defeated Joe Soto, I believe, the fight before that. And then he loses to Cody Garbrandt. Then he only gets one win after that. So he hasn't had a win, in almost 6 years. And he hasn't fought in 2 years. What an absolute collapse. That's crazy. And then Jean Valente defeated Francimar Barroso in a close fight, too. Calvin Kattar defeated Shane Burgos with those uppercuts, which was crazy. And then Daniel Cormier. Volkan was never the same. Never the same after this fight. This fight was... it changed Volkan's career. It changed how he was able to take punishment and all those things. Stipe defeated Francis, as we know, and then, And then next, January 27th, 2018, UFC on Fox. Jacare versus Brunson 2. They had fought previously in the Strikeforce, where Jacare defeated him as well. Strikeforce 2012 in 41 seconds. This started with Corey Sandhagen. I'm pretty sure this was his debut. Watch me be wrong again. Nope, this was his debut. And he beat Austin Arndt in the second round in pretty bad fashion. I'm pretty sure you heard him with a body shot. And then Nico Price won. Vince Pichel defeated Joaquin Silva. And then, there's a lot. And then Mirsad Bektik defeated Pape with a body punch, which was pretty crazy. Bobby Green defeated Eric Koch. And Eric Koch, at one time, was the only person to knock out Rafael Sunsao. Was supposed to fight Jose Aldo for a title, and he had to pull out, and he was never the same again. And then Drew Dober defeated Frank Camacho. This fight was crazy. Wasn't quite to what everybody was expecting or hoping for. And then Andre Fili, Dennis Bermudez. Anybody remember Dennis Bermudez? Holy crap. At one point, this guy was a really, really fun fighter. And then after the Ronnie Jason fight, just started losing fights. Did end up coming back and winning. He fought Tay Edwards and won that decision and then retired. But he had lost 3 straight split decision fights. I think the Darren Elkins fight, people thought Bermudez could have won, and the Rick Glenn one as well. But again, Chen Sung-Jung KO'd him. Jeremy Stevens KO'd him with a flying knee, which was nuts. Ricardo Lamas changed his career. And he went on a good run there for a little bit. Losing to Diego Brandao by armbar in 2011. Beating Pablo Garza, Tommy Hayden, Matt Grice. Matt Grice fight was crazy. I thought Matt Grice won that. And then beating Max Holloway, Steven Seiler, and then Jimmy Hedis, Clay Guida, and then... would only win 3 fights after 2014, which seems crazy, right, as I'm looking back at it now, because he was good there for a long time. And Andre Fili's still there. Gregory Gillespie, we just don't hear about anymore. I'm very confused on that. And then you have someone else who fought last night, Eric Anders, headlining against Machida. I don't think he was supposed to be fighting him. maybe he was. This wasn't the short notice one. He took a short notice fight against, what's his name? Thiago Santos. Stupid. Jesus. And then this one, Davison Figueiredo defeated Joseph Morales, which he was good for a little bit and then just was finished by Davison Figueiredo. Lost to Eric Shelton, and then he kind of was just gone. He does seem to be fighting again. He fought February. Anthony Doe, whatever the hell that name is, I don't even know. But yeah, he was a promising fighter there for a little bit. Joe Soto lose to Yuri Alcantara. Demir's still here. Tim Means is here in a fight I thought Tim Means won. Thiago Santos destroyed Anthony Smith before Anthony Smith would move up. Same with Thiago Santos. He'd eventually move up as well. Desmond Green is in prison. He has a hit and run, I believe it was. Let's see. Let's see where it was. Right here. 2018, Green was involved in a car accident in Florida when he lost control of his SUV and veered toward a tractor trailer, resulting in a 5-car crash which killed 2 people. Green suffered only minor injuries in the accident. Green was involved in a minor accident 2 weeks prior to this 5-car crash accident where he cited driving with a suspended license and no proof of insurance with a technology report that Green tested positive for cannabis, whatever the fuck that is, and a blood alcohol level of 0.14. Subsequently, on June 26, 2019, it was reported that Green was arrested and jailed for 20 separate charges, including 2 second-degree felony counts of DUI manslaughter for third-degree felony counts of DUI causing serious bodily injury, third-degree felony possession of cocaine, 5 misdemeanor counts of DUI property damage, and third-degree felony driving with a suspended license with jail on bond totaling $194,000. During his pretrial, Green was charged with felony driving without license on January 22, 2020. Subsequently, his release was revoked and Green was jailed pending his court hearing on March 6, 2020. Wow. So again, it does seem like he is out at this point. He fought twice in 2022. The crazy part about it is, like, in the UFC, he's what? 1, 2, 3, 3-3 in the UFC. 4-3 in the UFC, defeating Josh Emmett in his first fight. And he's fought good fighters. He really did. Defeated Ross Pearson. Charles Jourdain he beat. It's weird because he has Miguel Torres he defeated, Mike Richmond he beat, again Kurt Holobo he lost to by split decision, and this was back in, he fought for Titan, Bellator, World Series of Fighting I believe he also fought for. I thought he did, maybe not, but either way, that's a wild thing. Yeah. It's the same fucking guy he's fought twice. Okay. Either way. But yeah, he's on this card. Alan Patrick, who Michael Johnson sent to the underworld. Lyoto Machida defeated Eric Anders by split decision. And again, some people thought Eric Anders won this fight. Valentina Shevchenko defeated Kocheria by rear naked choke in the second round. The former champion. And then UFC 221, Romero versus Rockhold. This feels like yesterday. This doesn't feel like 6 years ago. Or 5 years ago, I mean. Stupid. Yeah, but 5 years ago. It doesn't feel like 5 years ago. Not at all. And then starting off the card, Luke Jumio wins on that one. Ross Pearson wins. Jussier for Omega. This one was a nasty because he really hurt Ben. And that one, Alexander Volkanovski debuts and defeats Jeremy Kennedy. Pretty sure this was his debut. Maybe he had one fight before this in the UFC. His first fight was Kasui. Jeremy Kennedy one was his 4th fight. He already was 3-0 at that point. Israel Adesanya defeated Rob Wilkinson that was his debut this year. So 5 years, 2-time champion. Pretty crazy, honestly. Tyson Pedro came. Jake Matthews looked really, really good in this one. Tai Tuivasa destroyed Cyril Asker. Mark Hunt fought on this card. And then Yoel sent Luke Rocco to the underworld as well. And then you go to UFC on Fox. Emmett versus Stevens. Oh, my goodness. Oh, boy. Manny Bermudez fought on this one. Alex Perez, when you actually fight, not pull out. Sam Alvey destroyed Marcin. Alan Joban had an awesome fight with Ben Saunders. Henan Barao. Max Griffin defeated Mike Perry. Beat the shit out of Mike Perry. Ilir Latifi defeated OSP by staining guillotine. See, that fight seems like it's yesterday. Andrade versus Tisha Torres was a co-main event. Huh? Yikes. And, Henan Barao, 36 years old, 34-9 as of right now. Hasn't won a fight since 2016. Hasn't fought since 2019. And the one fighter that he beat was Felipe Nover. Felipe Nover. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Since he's lost to TJ, he is 2-1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Some of them are, he was only finished one time. That was by Luke Saunders. And I'll tell you what, Luke Saunders, his corner gave him perfect advice. And that's how Luke Saunders was able to get that KO. It's beautiful. If you want to see beautiful corner work, go watch that fight. That was gorgeous. Gorgeous. I love watching that one just because of that. And this is another one where there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 finishes, but 3 of them are on the prelims. Or no, 5 of them are on the prelims. There's only 2 finishes on the main card. This would be a good fight, a good card. Fight of the night was Alan Joban. Ben Saunders got 50,000. Performance of the night was Jeremy Stevens and Ilir Latifi. Surprised Yaya didn't get a performance bonus, or Manny Bermudez, or Sam Alvey. How did Sam Alvey get a bonus for that? Sam Alvey made 92,000. 92,000. That's what he got for knocking him out. I guess the total disclosed payout of the event was $1.1 million, which seems odd, I guess. Perez was fined. Oh, he missed weight. Shocker, he missed weight. And then next, you have Cyborg coming into the UFC. UFC 22 features in the upcoming Roadhouse while filming. What? Oh, okay, I see. Okay, that's odd. And then, that one... Not, Zach Otto defeated Mike Pyle, but he was fun for a little while as well. Siba Dalloway was KO'd after the bell. That one was a scary knockout. Alexander Hernandez destroyed Beneil Dariush, short notice, 42 seconds. John Dotson defeats Pedro Munoz. Mackenzie Dern fought on that card. Arlovsky wins against Stefan Struve. I forgot that fight even happened. Sean O'Malley breaks his foot, and Andre Sokomuth fouls him to the ground instead of making him get up and probably winning the fight, to be honest. Brian Ortega finishes Frankie Edgar with an uppercut, which was disgusting. It was beautiful. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like Brian Ortega is that same type of fighter. Performance of the night was Ortega and Hernandez. Fight of the night was Sean O'Malley and Andre. That's a good card. That's a good card. I mean, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 finishes, but they're TKOs and 1 DQ. A lot of the splits. I mean, that's 5 split decisions on one card, which seems kind of crazy, to be honest. And then you got Verdum versus Volkov. Jimmy Manuwa versus Jan Blachowicz, which, yikes. And Mark Godbeer fought on this card. Stevie Ray, Cajun Johnson, which was actually pretty good. I don't think you get respect for that. Paul Craig defeated Ankalaev with literally a second left in the fight. Danny Henry actually wins against Hakeem Dawodu. Danny Roberts KOs Oliver Enkamp. John Phillips gets submitted by Charles Beard, which seems weird to say. Leon Edwards defeats Peter Sabata. Wow. And then Tom DeQuasny, I think that's DeQuasnoy, retired young. Jan Blachowicz dominates Jimmy. Alexander Volkov finishes Fabricio Verdum. Seemed crazy at the time. Not so crazy, really. And then you got Khabib fighting Al Iaquinta, where it was supposed to be Paul Felder, and it ended up not being Paul Felder. They didn't think he was ranked high enough, so they didn't give it to him, which seems nuts. Whether it changes the outcome or not, I still would have loved to see that happen. And, yeah, Khabib fights Al Iaquinta in this one. This is right after the boat crash, all those things, or boat incident, not crash, but boat incident. You know, Oliver Aubin Mercier defeats Evan Dunham. Chris Gutzmacher defeats Joe Lozon by corner stoppage, which you really don't see that anymore. Calvin Kattar gets shut down. Zabit looks great. Has an awesome fight with Kyle Bochniak. Rose defeats Joanna Jędrzejczyk by decision. Khabib, and like I said, Khabib defeats Iaquinta, but has some issues. Performance was Chris Gutzmacher, Oliver Aubin Mercier. Fight of the night was Zabit Magomed Sharapov versus Kyle Bochniak was fight of the night. Not a great card. That you guys want to complain about a card? This is not a good card. 2 finishes, 1 split decision, and then the rest decisions. Not a good card. Not good. My God. And then UFC on Fox, Poirier versus Gaethje. Luke Saunders on that one. Matthew Lopez gets beat up in that. Diego Lima still loses the fight. Shano Dobson. Gilbert Burns destroys Dan Moret. Brad Tavares defeats Jocko, who just tested positive for PFL. John Moraga defeats Wilson Rice, which was a big win. Muslim Salikov defeats Ricky Rainey. That was a bad knockout, too. Antonio Carlos Jr. defeats Tim Bosch. Alex Oliveira submits Carlos Condit. Israel Adesanya defeats Marvin Vettori by split. Some people thought Vettori won that one. And then Dustin Poirier kind of dominates against Justin Gaethje. And then and that crowd was crazy. I mean, that's 11,000. You know, the fight before the Khabib was 17,000. Gila River Arena in Glendale, Arizona for the Poirier-Gaethje fight, 11,000 people. And then you go to Barboza versus Kevin Lee, April 21st, 2018, Atlantic City, New Jersey. It's 9,500 people there to see that one. Crazy. Barboza, Lee, Edgar Swanson, too. Wow. And then Anthony Marco's there. He's now, I believe he fights for the PFL. Corey Anderson, no longer in the UFC, fights for Bellator. Sayer retired, but had a great fight against Loan Chagas. Ricky Simone submits Merab Dvalishvili. They say TKO, but it's not. It's a submission. He submitted him. Ryan LaFleur had real big promise there for a little while. And then Dan Hooker opens up the main card and finishes Jim Miller, which I believe this was Jim Miller's, what's that called? Lyme disease era of him fighting. Aljo beating Brett Johns, who I believe also fights for Bellator. David Branch destroys Thiago Santos, which is something that you don't really think about. Justin Willis defeats Chase Sherman, which he would last years after this, which is crazy to think about. Frankie Edgar dominates Cub Swanson, and then Kevin Lee gets the doctor to stop against Edson Barboza. Whoa. And then you got Nunes versus Raquel Pennington. This was, Marcus Perez, Ramazan Amiv, Albert Mina. Jack Hermanson defeats Talis Latis for the first stoppage ever in Latis' career. Worley Alves defeats Sultan Aliv. Zaleski dos Santos finishes Sean Strickland, the only person at that time to finish him. Davey Ramos. Cesar Ferreira, which he had big promise but never lived up to the hype. Olenek does his Ezekiel choke. I believe this was the second fight in a row he does the Ezekiel choke. Pretty sure it was this one and the guy before. Let's see. No. Victor Pest does the Ezekiel choke in 2017, and then he gets it again in May 12th, 2018. Yeah. There's that. And then Lyoto Machida front kicks Vitor Belfort. Man, that's 6 years ago, 5 years ago. That's crazy. John Lineker defeats Brian Kelleher by KO. Amanda Cooper says Mackenzie Dern doesn't have power, and then she gets dropped and then choked out. Kelvin Gastelum defeats Souza. Jacare. And some people thought Gastelum lost. Thought Jacare should have won that. And Amanda Nunes beats the living dog shit out of Raquel Pennington. Beats her up bad. 10,000, over 10,500 people show up. And then Maia versus Usman, 11,000 fans. Nuts. 2018 still. Frankie Saenz is on this. Brandon Davis, Gabriel Benitez, Humberto Bandone is on this card. Alexander Pantoja, Brandon Moreno, the second time he defeated him. Zach Cummings loses a split decision. Vicente Luque dominates Chad Laprise. Andrea Lee is on this card. Diego Rivas. Dominic Reyes finishes Jared Cannonier, which was a big, big win, especially looking back at it now, which, yikes. And then Damian Maia loses to Kamaru Usman, which referee kind of fucked Damian Maia. Damian Maia was getting the backpack ready for Usman on his back, and the referee breaks them up. Not saying that he was going to defeat him, but when you're good at something and you get that position, and they took it away from him. And then Wonder Boy versus Darren Till. God, this doesn't seem like it was that long ago. Crazy. Elias Theodore, R.I.P., just passed away from cancer. Yeah. Tom Breeze defeated Dan Kelly, which was, shocker. Darren Stewart defeated Eric Spicely. Nordine Talib. Darren Stewart's no longer in the UFC. Molly McCain is that's where she got submitted by Ruda Kachok by Jillian Robertson. Robertson, I think that's how you pronounce it. Everybody on this main card is no longer there besides Molly McCain and Jillian Robertson. Darren Stewart's not there. Eric Spicely, no. Talib, no. Silva, no. Marco Mercani just got cut. Jason Knight is on the Ultimate Fighter. Mads Borrell's Bellator, like I said. Arnold Allen obviously is there. Neil Magny is there. Darren Till released, and Wonderboy, of course, is still there. This is an okay card. I mean, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 finishes out of, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 6 out of 11 fights. I mean, not bad. Darren Till missed weight. Really, really bad. Very boring fight. Not a great fight. Not a great fight. And then Jimmy Rivera fights Marlon Moraes and gets finished. Jared Brooks KOs himself, basically. Well, really. Nathaniel Wood shocks the world and submits Johnny Eduardo in his debut. Gleison Tibau loses to Desmond Green, like I said. Chance Wren counter. David Tamer isn't there no more. Nick Lentz retired. Lauren Murphy's there still. Cesaro Eubanks is no longer there. Alvi, no, obviously. Sean Vellante. Yeah, Sean Vellante is no. Julio Arce is still there. Jake Ellenberger's gone. Walt Harris is there, but he's not good. Daniel Spitz. Okay. Vince Pichel. That was a huge win for Gregor Gillespie at the time. Vince Pichel is really good. From Hell. Vince from Hell Pichel. That's a fucking awesome nickname. And then Marlon Moraes before his chin went. Are you a professional fighter? You kind of need a chin? Nah, not today. It's like when you go and you create a fighter on like a UFC game or something and you put your chin health all the way down and you max out everything else. You're really, really good until you get touched. And then you're like, you just fold over. Brutal. Marlon Moraes just retired as well, like I said. I didn't say that, but yeah. And then you got UFC 225 Whitaker versus Romero 2. And I thought Yoel Romero won in the second fight. He just dropped him a lot. I thought it would have counted for more, and I thought he won in that fight. Either way, Dan Ige picks up a win. Clay Guida gets submitted by Charles Oliveira pretty early. Sergio Pettis wins. Anthony Smith KOs Rashad Evans with a knee when he's posting. Chris Del La Rocha finishes Rashad Coulter. Mirsad Bektik retired. He's gone. Ricardo Lamas is retired. Carlos Esparza had a terrible fight with Rose. Curtis Blades destroys Alistair Overeem. CM Punk fights Mike Jackson, loses a decision, but it's overturned. Taito Avasa defeats Andrei Arlovsky. Not a great fight. Holly Holm defeated Megan Anderson. The kickboxer wrestled. Weird. Colby Covington kind of dominated RDA, kind of later in the fight. And then Whitaker won a split decision, 48-47. So that was a pretty good card. Some of those fights are really fun fights to go back and you watch. And then you got Cowboy fighting Leon Edwards back in the day, and Leon defeated him 3-2. And this isn't a bad card either. I mean, it kind of starts off rough. Couple decisions, a couple submissions here and there, but Song Kenan defeats Hector Aldana with TKO. Shane Young defeats Ronaldo Dai by TKO. Song Yadong KOs Felipe Arantes with an elbow. Petr Yan defeated Ishiria. The Leech got a big win. Jessica Ai was still fighting. Yikes. OSP gets dropped and then gets a submission on Tyson Pedro with an armbar, which kind of crazy, honestly. And then, Leon Edwards defeated Cowboy 3-2. Not a bad card. That was 6,400. And then you got the Ultimate Fighter undefeated finale. And I don't think it shows. Oh, yeah. Mike Trezano, Joe Gennady, split decision, 3 rounds. Brad Canota, Cantona, he's also on the Ultimate Fighter this year. Oh, Israel Adesanya, Brad Tavares, yep. Alex Caceres defeats Martin Bravo. Roxanne Matafari is on this card. Julian Marquez, Alessio Di Chirico is on this one. Montana De La Rosa is on here. Luis Pena before he got in some legal trouble. Bryce Mitchell wins on that one. Decision majority. Steven Peterson wins. Jared Marshart wins. Some fun fights on that card. I can't believe it was that long ago. I gotta be honest. Can't believe it. And then UFC 226. Stipe Miocic versus Daniel Cormier. Crazy. Gilbert Burns gets KO'd by Dan Hooker. Curtis Millender has a good performance against Max Griffin. Lando Venata loses a dominating fight against Jakar Close. Rob Font loses to Rafael Sunsao. Uriah Hall shows heart, but ends up losing against Paulo Costa. Khalil Roundtree destroys Gokhan Saki. Anthony Pettis submits Michael Chiesa. Mike Perry hurts and beats Paul Felder, which I don't think they were originally supposed to fight, but they chose to fight at welterweight. I don't know. Derek Lewis and Francis Ngannou, in probably one of the most boring fights of all time, defeats him. And then Cormier KOs Stipe Miocic. KOs him. Flatlines him. Brutal. Michael Chiesa also missed weight by, I think, 2.5 pounds or 1.5 pounds. Not good. Not good at all. Just not. And then you got Dos Santos versus Ivanov. And, this was kind of a resurgence for Junior at this point, at this time. Not a lot of good fights on the undercard. Ronnie Barcelos TKOs Kurt Hullabo. Darren Elkins loses. Justin Scoggins loses against Syed. A split decision, too. Volkanovski defeats Darren Elkins. Shit. Alejandro Perez defeats Eddie Wineland in a back-and-forth fight. Kat Zingano was still there. Chad Mendes destroys Miles Jury. Comes back, I believe. Nico Price, hammer fists on the ground. Randy Brown. Ricky Glenn defeated Bermuda. Zach Otto loses to Sage Northcutt, which seems crazy to even say. And then Junior dominates Blagoy Ivanov. Dominates. And then you got Shogun versus Anthony Smith, which, yikes. And you got, on this one, you got Davey Grant, Manny Bermudez, Nick Hine, Khalid Taha, Alexander Rakic, Nasser Haparas, Mark DeCasey, Danny Roberts, Stephen Struve, Glover Teixeira losing to Corey Anderson, and then Smith dominating Shogun. This is a bad card. 1, 2, 3 finishes. 2 of them were in the Fight Pass prelim time. So that's a long fucking card. That is a long card. Brutal. Fight of the night was Roberts versus David Zawada. And Zawada lost a split decision, 30-27 and 2 29-28s for Danny Roberts. That's yikes. And then Eddie Alvarez versus Dustin Poirier. 2 when the first one was ended because of an illegal knee. Devin Powell fought on here. Randa Marcos. Matthias Nikolai before he got really good and then KO'd by Brandon Royval. Dustin Ortiz. John McDessie was still here, which he's still here now, which seems crazy. Defeated Ross Pearson. Ian Kutalabe gets another win. He's so bad. Islam Makhachev defeats Kajan Johnson. Nick Neen, which was really, really cool to see him in the UFC finally. Hakeem Dawodu. Alexander Hernandez. Oliver Aban Mercier. Jose Aldo defeated Jeremy Stevens with a body shot. And that was nice because he was hurt early and ended up pulling it out. That was a crazy one. And then you got TJ Dillashaw versus Cody Garbrandt 2. And, Marlon Vieira on that. Zhang Weili getting a decision win. Alex Perez getting a finish. Shaman Moraes defeating Matt Sales, which is not good. I believe the same person, Bryce Mitchell, twisted. Ricky Simone defeated Montel Jackson. Pedro Munoz beat Brett Johns, where Johns was hurt a lot in that fight. Thiago Santos versus Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland's debut in middleweight, which he just now went down a weight class. It shows you how good he is. He had some really, really good moments in that first round. Renato Marcano defeats Cub Swanson by rear naked choke. I believe he hurt him and then submitted him. And then Henry Cejudo defeated Demetrius Johnson by split. I thought DJ won, but very close fight. And then TJ Dillashaw did the exact same thing he did in the first fight. Just did it in the second one a whole lot earlier and with a whole lot less controversy. Cody Garbrandt just never blocked the right side of his face. So he just kept getting hit, dropped, and then finished with some knees. Brutal. Yeah, 17,000 fans on that fight. Then you got Justin Gaethje versus James Vick. And, this one was really, really good. Ronnie Yaya defeated Luke Saunders, heel hook. John Chuck loses against Drew Dober. Joanne Wood wins this one. Mickey Gall gets a rear naked choke. Andrew Sanchez gets a win. Corey Sandhagen gets out of an armbar. I don't know how against Yuri Alcantara. And James Krause destroys Wardley Alves. Eric Anders head kicks Tim Williams as Tim Williams is getting up, which was nuts. Davison Figueiredo versus John Moraga. This was a hard fight to watch because Moraga got beat up. Brian Barberina retired Jake Ellenberger in this fight. Michael Johnson defeated Andre Fili. And then James Vick got sent to the Underrealm against Justin Gaethje. And then you got Tyrone Woodley versus Darren Till. I mean, again, not a great Fight Pass card. 1 finish, 3 decisions, 2 split decisions. You got Darren Stewart destroying Charles Byrd. Jeff Neal versus Frank Camacho, him head kicking him and getting him out of there. Aljo submitting Cody Stamann. Tatiana Suarez finishing Carla Esparza, which was a big, big win back then. And then you got Abdul Razak Al Hassan before his bullshit trial thing happened. KOing Nico Price. And then you got Jimmy Rivera beating John Dotson. Brandon Davis losing against Zabit with a knee bar. Jessica Andrade KOing Karolina Kolokiewicz. And then Tyron Woodley dropping and then finishing Darren Till. And Darren Till was never really the same again. And then you got Mark Hunt versus Alexei Oleinik. And, this, again, not a great card. 1, 2, 3 finishes on a prelims or whatever. 3 finishes. And then main card, 4 fights, 2 finishes. Shamil fought. Andrei Arlovsky, Thiago Alves fought. And then Olenek defeated Mark Hunt, rear naked choke. And again, not a great fight. But Rob Dvalishvili really destroyed Tyrion Ware 30-25, which I don't think we expected anything else. But again, not a great fight. Just not great. Just not. Fight of the night was Petr Yan versus Jinsu Sun. Jinsu Sun was not able to make money for it because he missed weight, which means he probably got some. Performance of the night was Olenek, Blachowicz, and Magomed Ankalaev. But again, not great. It's just not a great card. And then Thiago Santos fights Eric Anders. This is another one where Luigi Vendrame gets KO'd. I don't know how he survived the flying knee. It was kind of out on his feet. It was nuts. And then Myra Bruno Silva gets arm bars. Jillian Robertson. Hector Lombard loses a decision 2-1 against Thiago Leites. Sergio Moraes arm triangle chokes Ben Saunders. Chase Sherman gets finished by Augusto Sakai. Evan Dunham loses a knee to the body. Ryan Spann wins. Oliveira rear naked chokes Christos Yagos. Andre Ewell has a breakout performance against Henan Brau. Sam Alvey gets finished by Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira. Alex Oliveira defeats Carlo Pedersoli Jr. And Thiago Santos defeats Eric Anders. And I believe it was short notice for Eric Anders, and he gets a TKO. He was gassed. And then you got Khabib fights McGregor. Back in 2018, a lot of trash talking, and there was 20,000 in attendance. October 6th, 2018. And this is a good fight. This is a good card. Anthony Rocco Martin defeats Ryan LaFleur. Nick Lentz defeats Gray Maynard. Scott Holtzman KOs Alan Patrick. Jalen Turner gets KO'd by Vicente Luque in his debut fight. Aspen Ladd wins. Jussier Formiga defeats Sergio Pettis, dominates him. Derek Lewis comes back and defeats Alexander Volkov. Reyes almost at the last second finishes OSP. Tony Ferguson beats Anthony Pettis because Pettis breaks his hand, but it was an awesome fight. And then Conor McGregor gives Khabib his toughest test of yet, and gives him challenges, gives him a hard time. Just because Khabib won does not mean he doesn't. He didn't have a challenge. It wasn't hard. It wasn't easy. I'll tell you that. Conor put up a good fight, and people forget about that. And then Volkov versus Volkov versus Smith. The last one, a really, really good card, by the way. Don Medge defeats Tay Edwards, head kick. Calvin Kattar defeats Chris Fishgold. Nasser Haparas gets a good win. Sean Strickland destroys Nordine Talib. Alex Garcia loses again. Ed Herman loses a split decision. Jonathan Martinez is figuring out his style. Pat Cummins is gone. I don't know how in the world he lost against Misha Serkinov. That's a bad loss. Michael Johnson kind of picks apart Artem Lobov. And then Anthony Smith finishes Volkan Ozdemir. This was one of those fights where Anthony Smith said, see, I can take punishment and come back and win. I don't give a shit. Volkan was kind of having his way until he lost with that fight. And then you got Daniel Cormier versus Derek Lewis. And short notice for Derek Lewis as well. Shane Burgos defeated Kurt Holobo. Kurt did hurt Shane. And then he followed him to the ground. And yeah. Matt Frivola hurts, batters. Lando Venata gets a majority draw. Ben Saunders loses against Lyman Good. And Ben Saunders thought he hurt Good, so he went right at him. Stayed in the clinch and was finished. Julio Arce loses a split decision. Israel Adesanya destroys. This was kind of his opening up, or his here you go party for Derek Brunson. Israel shined. Carl Robeson defeated Jack Marshman. Not a great fight. Jared Cannonier defeated David Branch. Jacare defeated Chris Weidman. And Chris Weidman looked awesome early in this fight. Awesome. And then DC dominated Derek Lewis. Dominated him. And then you got UFC Fight Night, the Korean Zombie versus Rodriguez. And this is another one. Starts out split decisions. Devontae Smith defeated Julian Erosa by KO. Chaz Skelly, Bobby Maffei was a no contest because Bobby Maffei got a submission and it wasn't actually like in, or Chaz Skelly wasn't even out, nothing like that. So they overturned it. And David Ramos is here. Michael Trezano defeated Luis Pena. Macy Barber defeated Hannah Cyphers. Moises is here. Benil Dariush defeated him. Dominated him. Raquel Pennington loses against Jermaine Durandamy. And then Cowboy defeated Mike Perry by arm bar. And then Yair Rodriguez fights the Korean Zombie and is getting his ass kicked up until that last second. And yeah, if Chan Sung Jung doesn't charge at him and he doesn't get KO'd with 1 second to go. Unbelievable card. That had 11,000 people. And then your UFC Fight Night, like I said, Hunt versus Olenek, it had 22,000 fans and attendance. It was Russia. Okay, so that makes sense. And then you got Magny versus Ponzinibbio, and this is before Ponzinibbio was out for a little while. He was still a little bit younger. And, Devin Powell was on this card. And Alexander Pantoja was on here. Cynthia Calvillo was here. Marlon Vera fought Goody Canetti, got a rear naked choke. Cesar Vieira loses against Ian Heinisch. Johnny Walker shows up and KOs Khalil Roundtree in under 2 minutes with the elbows. Ricardo Lamas batters Darren Elkins and gets a big win. Santiago Ponzinibbio, like I said, face plants Neil Magny. This was a really, really good Santiago Ponzinibbio back then as well. Okay. And then Curtis Blades versus Francis Ngannou 2. This one was interesting because not a whole lot of finishes. 1, 2, 3, 4 finishes. Not great. The Leech defeated David Zawada, body kick and punches in the third round. And not much left of the third round either. Song Yadong defeats Vince Morales. Dominated him. Alistair Overeem gets a short notice change up in Sergey Pavlich and destroys him. And look where Sergey's at now. Francis defeats Curtis Blades in 45 seconds. Catches him right over the ear and he's never able to recover. Never. And then 2,000 for the heavy hitters, Ultimate Fighter. And, Ricky Rainey loses against Tim Means. Tim Means was angry in that fight. That's a fun fight to watch. Roosevelt Roberts, guillotine choke against Daryl Horcher. Chris Gutierrez loses again with a rear naked choke against Ronnie Barcelos. People forget that victory sometimes. Joseph Benavidez KOs Alex Perez twice in that fight. If you don't know, go watch. He KOs him twice. Crazy. And then Edmund Shabazian, still undefeated, defeats Darren Stewart. Pedro Munoz beats Brian Caraway with a body kick, which was kind of surprising at the time. Not so much now. Juan Esposito defeats Justin Fraser with straight arm lock. And then Kamaru Usman kind of dominates Rafael Dos Anjos 50-43, 49-45, and 48-47. Those cards are all over the place. My God. Maurice Green it wins that fight as well. And then you go to UFC Fight Night, Dos Santos versus Taito Avasa. Over 8.5K of fans, 8,600 to be exact. And then you have Christoph Yogos fighting Kai Kara France, wins in his fight. Yushin Okami loses. Jimmy Crute, Paul Craig. Jimmy Crute actually Kimuras Paul Craig, which is nuts. Sadiq Youssef looks really, really good. Anthony Rocco Martin submits Jake Matthews. Justin Willis, Mark Hunt. Maurice Green versus Tyson Pedro. Pedro kind of gets beat up. I believe he does hurt his leg or his knee in that fight, and that's how he gets finished. And then Junior Dos Santos has his moment. Ty has his moments, and he's able to catch Tuivasa clean and get him out of there. Gets him out of there. And then Max Holloway versus Brian Ortega. Very interesting fight. But the card opens up with Rakic versus Devin Clark, where Rakic actually gets hurt, but Devin Clark ends up getting TKO'd. Of course he does. And then Kyle Nelson shows up on short notice and actually gives Ferreira a hard time, hurts him as well. But he gets finished early in the second round. Diego Lima starts a little bit of a winning streak for himself against Chad Laprise, but Chad Laprise gets KO'd in under 2 minutes. Diego Lima again looked good in this fight. Brad Katona looked good, dominates Matthew Lopez. Eric Anders loses a split decision against Elias Theodoro. And then Jessica Ai, of course, some fucking how is still here. God, he's terrible. Gilbert Burns, Oliver Abin Mercier. Jesus. And then you got Thiago Santos destroying Jimmy Manuwa. Hakeem Dawodu beating Kyle Bochniak. Split decision. Those cards are all over the place. 30-27 one way, 29-28 another way. Alex Oliveira gets rear naked choked by Gunnar Nelson. Valentina Shevchenko dominates Joanna Jędrzejczyk. And then Max Holloway puts on a masterclass against Brian T. City Ortega. And then you got Kevin Lee versus Aya Quinta, who I'm pretty sure isn't fighting anymore. He just hasn't said anything about it. You open up the card with 2 good finishes. Mike Rodriguez defeats Adam Milstead. And then you get Juan Adams defeats Chris De La Rocha. Danny Gay defeats Jordan Griffin. Trevor Smith loses to Zach Cummings. Jared Gordon gets finished against the cage against Joaquin Silva in the 3rd round. Drakkar Klose defeats Bobby King Green. Zach Otto wins a decision against Dwight Grant. Charles Oliveira defeats Jim Miller. Now they are 1-1. Rob Font wins against Sergio Pettis. Dan Hooker loses against Edson Barboza. Just gets picked apart in that fight. Aya Quinta defeats Kevin Lee for the 2nd time. Dominated him late into that fight. Dominated him. Fight of the night was Joaquin Silva versus Jared Gordon. Performances Aya Quinta and Charles Oliveira. Wow. Edson Barboza won $100,000 for that performance. Wow. And then you end the year, December 29th, 2018, John Jones, Alexander Gustafsson 2. And this card was interesting because you have Montel Jackson defeating Brian Kelleher, Bevon Lewis getting KO'd by Uriah Hall after dominating the whole 2.5 rounds, 3 rounds really. Nathaniel Wood defeating Andre Ewell by rear naked choke. BJ Penn gets submitted by Ryan Hall. Petr Yan looks Douglas Silva. DeAndrade makes him look really bad. Kat Zingano has an eye injury. Odd. Walt Harris, I'm pretty sure he defeated Andrei Arlovsky, but it was changed to a no contest. Originally a split decision win for Harris, overturned after he tested positive for LGD 4033, which who the heck knows what that is? Jesus. Ligadrol? What in the world? Oh, treatment for conditions such as muscle wasting and osteoporosis. Doesn't sound good. Let me tell you that. Misbranded as a dietary supplement, so it's not a dietary supplement. Okay. Sure. And then you have Alexander Volkanovski defeating Chad Mendes. And Chad Mendes had some really, really good moments in that fight. Corey Anderson dominates Ali Latifi. Michael Chiesa submits Carlos Condit. And then Nunes shocks the world and destroys Chris Cyborg. John Jones fights Gus. Knows he had a hard first fight. And then what does he do? He goes out there and dominates and KOs Alexander Gustafsson. Fight of the night was Chad Mendes versus Alexander Volkanovski, which, yeah, of course it was. Performance of the night was Amanda Nunes and Ryan Hall. Surprised John didn't get a finish, because at this time, Gustafsson wasn't known for quitting or wasn't known for getting finished. Now is a little bit different, but still. So that is January 14th, 2018, all the way to December 29th, 2018. A lot of cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. Oh no. 9, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38. 38 finishes. Or not finishes. 39 events. 13 UFC on Fox were 5. Tough finales were 2. Total fights 473. Title fights 18. Nuts. And some of those fighters still here. Some of those fighters are not still here. But kind of cool going back here. Let me know what you guys thought about 2018 in the UFC. The next video will be 2019, and boy, do we have some stuff to talk about that year. As always, guys, subscribe, like, and comment. Let me know what you guys think, and as always, peace.